Hello friends, my name is Leigh. I create videos about photography as an art and as a lifestyle. In the lab today is the Zhiyun Cinepeer Weebill 3E. It is a gimbal. Let's talk about what that means and how and why I have been using this one in particular. A gimbal helps you create super stabilized video, far better than stabilization in your camera or your lens, and much more stable than you could do with your own abilities just holding your camera. For documentarians, or even for those who do video as a hobby or as the family videographer, gimbal stabilized footage may be what you seek to elevate your video. It's smooth as silk and makes video simple to capture and easy to watch. I like to use it here in the studio to capture product footage, but you will also see some of my in-field footage in this video too. This gimbal in particular is Zhiyun's new Cinepeer line, which has a focus on being budget-friendly, but still highly capable for exactly what most people hope to gain from using a gimbal, without it being a heavyweight. And I'll explain more about why that in particular is important to me, but don't let the focus on basics fool you. This exciting new gimbal does have some tricks up its sleeve for those who like some extras from their gadgetry. Let's start with the setup, because it is the first thing that pleasantly surprised me about this gimbal. One key thing to do when using a gimbal is to balance it. We have used gimbals where the hardware itself wasn't easy to use, to the point where I just wouldn't want to use it because it was a pain to get the camera onto the gimbal. But not here. Setup is easy. You start by connecting the quick release plate to your camera, slide the plate onto the leveling base, and then use the ergonomic levers and adjustments to get the camera locked into a neutral balance. This will make the gimbal work better and save your battery life. By the way, the battery life on this is rated at 16 hours. That's a lot. And it's rechargeable with USB-C, which makes it super easy to charge. I know many of you are shooting vertical video for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. This gimbal makes it easy to shoot vertical with your camera. I've never used one quite like this before, where the plate can slide off and then slide back on at a 90-degree angle without having to take the quick release plate off of the camera. You'll probably need to do a quick rebalance, and then you're capturing vertical video of, let's say, your aunt's wild birthday party, preserving memories that maybe some people would like to forget. Okay, setup is quick, but the next thing to think about is controls. Like the physical setup, if the controls aren't easy to learn and to use, I am not going to use the gimbal. Here, you can control everything from the gimbal itself or from an app, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Just turning it on, the gimbal is going to behave exactly as you would expect a gimbal to behave, keeping the camera completely stable as you move about. Beyond that, the joystick helps you make adjustments to the angle of the camera. Like, say you want to angle it down a little bit. Or you can hold still and use the joystick and optionally an adjustment wheel to do panning or tilting, while again, keeping your footage smooth. I know I've said this more than once, but the key is that if a gimbal is not easy to set up and easy to use, I'm just not going to use it. I've had several come through here and you've not seen them because I didn't like using them. But I am comfortable enough using this that Raymond and I went out in the summer in Phoenix, Arizona with this gimbal. It was hot, I was sweaty, I needed to move fast before I melted into a puddle or just simply passed out. I got this initially set up in the car, and then all I had to do was turn the thing on and sometimes use the joystick a little bit. As a side note here, the build quality is rock solid, which is something that I am quite picky about because it will be ferrying my expensive photography gear. I don't take that lightly. The thing needs to be stable. The manual for this gimbal is really good and explains everything. You know I love a good manual, but let's take a look at the controls. If you do want to swap modes or access various functions, there is a menu button and scroll wheel. There's a trigger button. I use this often. If you double click this, it returns the camera to the home position if it gets off at all from that neutral position. And if you triple click it, the camera does a 180. And this is helpful when filming the action in front of you, like a muskrat or a pterodactyl, and then you can triple click to get your reaction to the greatness that you've just witnessed. Or if you just want to vlog. There's also a wheel that is customizable to behave in a few different ways, including to adjust your compatible camera's aperture. There's a record button too. For compatible cameras, you can Bluetooth in or wire in with the included cable so that you can keep your hands focused on the gimbal itself instead of working both the gimbal controls and the camera controls. The gimbal does have a few modes. PF is pan follow. In this mode, it behaves exactly as you would expect, like I said earlier. When you move, the camera doesn't. However, there are several other modes which lock one or more of the 3-axis motors so that the gimbal will behave as you want it to for each particular shot. Like I said before, the manual has great charts and explanations, but for example, in lock mode, all of the motors are locked, so you're negating the gimbal stabilization, but the joystick will still fluidly move the camera around. Kind of like a high-end tripod with a fluid head. Now for the app. It allows you to control the gimbal from your phone. The first thing to know about the app is that it works. This is absolutely the theme of this gimbal and this video. Gadget apps are notorious for not working well, so when an app works, I make sure to point it out. It connects quickly. You can control the gimbal similar to using the joystick here on the home screen, but there is also a feature that will use your phone's axis sensors to control the gimbal. It kind of feels like you have telekinetic powers. You can also switch between modes and even start recording from the app. There are also a few other special features that I have only just scratched the surface with, such as a mode for capturing panoramas. So using the app with the gimbal on its base or on a tripod, you're not touching it, but you are still controlling it. Last, for a few specifications. This is an inexpensive gimbal, as gimbals go. In the US, the price is presently $249, though I do have a discount code for you in the description of this video, along with a link to the item. I mentioned the battery life already. It is extensive. That's definitely worth mentioning again. It holds about 6.5 pounds or 3 kilograms, which means that I can attach my Lumix S5 II, a prime or a zoom lens, and have weight capacity to spare. In fact, I can't imagine for myself wanting to use more weight than that. Though Zhiyun does have gimbals that hold much more, this is just what's most comfortable and easy to use for me. Speaking of those higher capacity gimbals, this one is actually compatible with some of the accessories of those other gimbals. So if there's an add-on you want, like a wrist rest, you can find it on the site. I think I mentioned this at the beginning. I accepted the gimbal from Zhiyun because it was more compact and lightweight than other gimbals that I have used for my mirrorless cameras, while still delivering all the capabilities and the build quality that I would expect from Zhiyun, as they are one of the top gimbal manufacturers. Really, the only surprise was how easy it was to use overall. This has become a part of my process in the studio, and I will definitely be packing it with me on my next photography trip, which is bound to be camping or a day trip to a national park. You guys know what I'm into. It does come in a small hard case with customized slots for each component, so it's easy to store and to travel with, keeping it all safe. Basically, if mine here were to disappear today, I would buy a new one tonight. If you are interested in a gimbal, I've linked to it in the description along with my discount code. Thank you to Zhiyun for sending this gimbal to review, and thank you all for watching.